The storm came first, as it always did on Caltheron, with rain, but with dust so fine it whispered against metal like the memory of touch. It slid across the battlefield in pale curtains, softening the jagged silhouettes of wrecked ships and fallen towers, erasing the boundary between sky and ground until the world felt unfinished. As if reality itself had been abandoned mid-construction, the alien warrior lay half-buried where the ridge collapsed. Her name, unspoken with reverence among her kind, had not been spoken in hours. The armor that defined her, layered plates of living alloy grown and bonded since her first rite of adulthood, was cracked open like a broken shell. One shoulder plate had sheared away entirely. The chest lattice flickered weakly, its bioreactive veins dim, failing. Every breath scraped through pain receptors that no longer dampened the sensation. Her species had evolved armor not merely as protection, but as identity. To lose it was to be undone. She stared at the sky through the dust and wondered distantly. When she had begun to feel cold, the battle had ended without ceremony. No victory cries, no final charge, just silence, and the distant hum of fires still burning in the ruins of the Skyfleet above. Her people had lost orbital superiority within minutes. The human ship, screwed by her standards, angular and elegant, had not retreated when they should have. They had burned themselves forward instead, overloading drives, shattering physics, turning sacrifice into a weapon. It had been unexpected. She tried to move. Her right arm responded with a tremor, then collapsed back into the dust. Warning glyphs shimmered faintly across her visor, unreadable now that half the neural interface was gone. Life support estimates spiraled downward. Minutes, perhaps an hour, if the storm did not worsen. She should have died angry. Instead, she felt something closer to confusion. Across the plain, something moved. At first she thought it was another storm, ghost electrostatic mirages that wandered. Kelthara, after heavy bombardment. But the shape resolved slowly, stubbornly real, bipedal, uneven gait, dragging one leg slightly, as if injured human. He wore no armor worth naming. Just a pressure-sealed suit scorched black along the seams, one sleeve torn open and patched with emergency resin. His helmet was gone, clipped to his belt, leaving his face exposed to a world that should have killed him within minutes. Dust caked his hair. Blood ran from a cut along his brow, drying into rust-colored lines. He stopped when he saw her. For a long moment, neither moved. She expected fear. Humans were fragile, loud-hearted creatures. Her kind had studied them extensively during the war. She expected him to raise a weapon or flee, or freeze in useless indecision. Instead, he slowly raised both hands. "Easy," he said, voice muffled by the storm, translated imperfectly through the remnants of her armor's linguistic core. "I'm not here to finish anything," she laughed, or tried to. The sound came out as a broken hiss. "Finish," she thought. "You won. There is nothing left to finish." He approached cautiously, eyes never leaving her shattered chest plate. He knelt beside her, close enough now that she could see the exhaustion etched into his face, lines carved by years, not battles. This was not a soldier fresh from training. This was someone who had survived too long. "You're bleeding light," he said quietly.
"That's
"Not good, is it?" She said nothing. Her strength was gone. Her armor's fail-safes were silent. Even if she wished to strike him down, her body would not answer. The human leaned back on his heels and looked around the battlefield, the wrecked alien cruisers embedded like broken bones in the earth. The twisted remains of his own species' ships scattered among them. He swallowed. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, he murmured. Not to her, but to the world. None of it was. He stood, hesitated, then made a decision. "I'll be back," he said. Don't die yet, okay?" And then he ran limping, desperate toward the nearest wreck, disappearing into the dust. She watched him go, consciousness slipping in and out like a failing signal. She dreamed of her armor as it once was. The ship had fallen hard. What remained of the human vessel was barely recognizable as spacecraft. The forward hull was embedded nose first into the ground, cracked open like a split seed. Internal compartments were exposed to the storm, cables snapping and swaying, lights flickering weakly as emergency power drained away. The human Eli, though no one had spoken his name aloud and days climbed inside anyway. Every step sent pain up his injured leg. He ignored it. Pain was familiar. Pain meant he was still here. He moved through the wreckage with the instinct of someone who had spent his life, repairing things that should not work anymore. He bypassed crushed corridors, ducked under hanging bulkheads, followed the scent of ozone and burned insulation toward the engineering spine. "Come on," he muttered, prying open a shattered panel. "You've got something left." "You always do." The ship's AI was dead. Power was erratic. But the fabrication modules, those had been built, stubborn, redundant. Humanity had learned long ago not to trust elegance when survival was on the line. He activated one with a jury-rigged bypass, the interface flickering uncertainly before stabilizing. "What do you need?" he whispered, mind racing. He had seen her armor. Not just plating architecture. Living material bonded to technology in ways humans still barely understood. But underneath, physics was physics. Energy flowed. Structures failed. Things could be replaced. He began to pull components from the wreck. Nanofiber weave from the hull lining, adaptive heat sinks from the engine casing, neural relay gel from a medical pod. He worked with shaking hands, guided by instinct and desperation, building something that had no blueprint. "Not pretty," he said aloud, "but it might hold." As he worked, memories crept in, uninvited Earth, before the evacuations. Blue skies choked with smoke, the sound of cities dying slowly, bureaucratically. He had been an engineer then. Two patching failing systems while politicians argued about who would own the stars once humanity escaped its cradle. He had left with the last wave. Most had not. When he finished, he stared at the crude assembly in his hands, an improvised interface, half human, half Phalian in design. A bridge between philosophies that had only ever met in war? "Guess this makes me a traitor," he said. Softly then, he turned back into the storm. She woke to sensation, not pain, pressure, weight, contact. Something was touching her exposed chest lattice, not with the invasive violence of enemy weapons, but with care. Her vision cleared enough to resolve the human silhouette bent over her, hands glowing faintly as the device he carried interfaced with her armor's remains. "What are you doing?" she rasped. He nearly fell backward. "Oh, good. You're awake," he said, relief flooding his voice. "I was worried I'd missed the window." She tried to pull away, but her body responded sluggishly. The human raised his hands again. "I know," he said quickly. "I know this looks bad. But if I don't finish sinking this, your core is going to shut down completely." Her instincts screamed enemy. Her training demanded resistance. But another voice, quieter, older, asked a different question. "What if survival does not look like victory?" "Explain," she said. He did haltingly. "About the wreckage. About the interface. About how her armor was dying but not dead-and. How human systems were crude. Adaptable, brutally persistent. I can't restore it to what it was," he admitted. "But I can give it a skeleton. Something to grow around. Something to keep you alive." She studied his face through cracked optics. Saw the fear there? Not of Herb, of failure. "Do it," she said. The connection closed. Light surged. She screamed, not in pain, but in shock. His new signals flooded her nervous system. The armor responded, awakening along unfamiliar pathways. Human materials bonded where alien ones had failed. Energy flowed differently. Now's elegant, more aggressive, like a heartbeat forced back into rhythm by will alone, she felt. Changed. When it ended, she lay gasping, systems stabilizing. The human collapsed beside her, breath ragged. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, she rose. The armor reformed around her, asymmetrical now, scarred but alive. Stronger in some places, stranger in others. She looked down at him. "You have altered me," she said. He met her gaze. "I know." Silence stretched. Then she extended a hand. "Then you are responsible for what I become." He took it above them. The storm began to clear in the distance. New signals bloomed across the sky, ships approaching. Drawn by the aftermath of a battle neither side had truly understood, and for the first time since the war began, the future felt unwritten.